My answer to him yesterday seemed to surprise him, and he asked, "Nicodemus, you are a respected Jewish teacher, and yet you do not understand these things?" That question stung like a bee, and I was very happy that our conversation was happening at night and in private, for it would have been disastrous if this man from Nazareth would have asked me the same question in public with everyone watching and listening, and people gotten to know that there were some things he knew that a Pharisee of high standing like myself did not know. He interrupted my thoughts and continued to say, "I assure you, Nicodemus, we tell you what we know and have seen, and yet you won't believe our testimony. But if you don't believe me when I tell you about earthly things, how can you possibly believe if I tell you about heavenly things? No one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in him will have eternal life." I did not understand what Jesus was talking about. But surprisingly, as I listened to him say all these things, I felt my anger and frustration slowly disappear, and in their place, a deep love and respect for him came into my heart. For the first time since I heard about Jesus, my ears seemed to be opening to his voice, and it is like I could finally hear him. And what I could hear him do was plead with me to stop trying to understand him and simply believe that he was from heaven, that he was come from God, and that what he spoke was heavenly. And just like the people in the wilderness only needed to believe and look at the bronze serpent that Moses had raised in order to be healed when they were bitten by a poisonous serpent, in the same way, the only way I could understand what Jesus was saying was to believe that he was from God. I was not going to understand him through any of the things that I knew or thought. And I got it. My good education, my immense wealth, my good religious habits, and my honorable leadership status were not going to help me understand this man from Nazareth. There was simply no way I, Nicodemus, or any other person for that matter, could ever understand what Jesus was teaching and what he was talking about without first believing that he was not an ordinary man, that he was from heaven, sent by God the Father. There is no way to explain what I felt. It was like I had been lost all this time, and finally I had been found. It's like I was blind, but now I could see. Could Could this little known man from Nazareth be the Messiah we had been waiting for all this time? After all, but what about all the other things I had read about in the Torah concerning the Messiah? How could Jesus of Nazareth be the Messiah, and yet he did not meet the physical description I had in my mind? Wasn't the Messiah going to be a strong and glorious earthly king who would deliver the nation of Israel from the Romans who had colonized Israel and oppressed us so much? Wasn't he going to form a great independent Jewish kingdom, just like the one King David had formed back in his days? And how about the fact that the Messiah was going to be a great political and military leader with more power and authority than King David, and commanding respect and awe from all nations of the world, not just our nation Israel? Or could it be that this man Jesus, this simple carpenter's son, was going to later change into a military general? I could not tell. Join me tomorrow, and I will share with you what I was thinking as I left to go back to my home.